Good afternoon, everybody. We're over here at Weston Nurseries on a beautiful sunny day in the fall. It's like the beginning of November, a perfect time to do our last little plantings and also getting ready for early spring, where we want to have some flowers and some color from our fall bulbs. I'll give you a little quick demonstration as to how to put a little what we call a bulb lasagna together. So you have like a nice little mix from like early season, mid-season, and late season bulbs that all will glow in one planter. All right. For today's varieties, we're going to use for like the late bloomers, we'll have a nice little tulip. For the mid-season, we have the scalla. And then for the early season, we gotta go and use the crocus. Those will bloom late February, early March. Then we have our second flush coming in with the medium ones, which is the scalla. And then the April ones, which this is like late April, which will be your tulips. So we have a little yellow and white, white and yellow for the tulips. So you'll have like a good 2 months of flowers all in one pot. We'll go and get started first. So we have some potting soil over here. We also have what we call a little bulb tone, which is like just a little fertilizer we want to give these bulbs just so they can get off like a nice healthy start and like a nice full bloom when spring comes around. And then the planter, yes, of course. And you can use any planter you like. It doesn't have to be like a white one. You can use smaller ones. And then also, as you put the planter, don't be afraid to put the bulbs in like nice and tight. Even though on the bags or on the instructions of the bulbs, it says like to do like 2 or 4 inches apart or 6 inches apart. In the bulb lasagna, it doesn't matter. We're gonna fill the pot for like 1/3. And then we're gonna go and set up our first layer for that. And you do like a good handful of the bulb tone. You start with those. All right, so we start with our first, which is our late season bulbs, which in this case are the tulips. On the bulbs, make sure that you have the pointy side up and the white side where the roots will come is on the down side. And it doesn't matter how you put them in there, just spread them out so they come up nicely throughout the pot. Because they take the longest time to grow, so we can get away with having come down up last. And they also like usually go in the deepest. And then we're going to go and start our second layer. So I'm going to add another layer of soil. So which will be kind of like my second third. Okay, then I'm going to go do another handful of my bulb tone. And I'm going to put in my second one, which will be our mid-season bulbs, which is the scalla in this case. And again, just on the scalla, just make sure we have the pointy side up and then the root side is down. So like in case you can see this one is already coming out a little bit, so it gives you a good idea as to what the top of the plant will be. We started off with 10 tulips in the bottom. Now we have 20 of the scallas. And then on top of that, I'm going to add another layer, and that will be 25 of the crocuses. So you're going to have like a nice full pot, pretty much like your whole spring season, starting like the end of February all the way going into April. So we have our second layer of bulbs in, so now we're going to go and add another layer of soil. I would say like 2 inches. Just enough that, you know, they each have like their own layer to grow some of the roots. Okay. And then we're going to go and do our last one, which is like our early season, which is the crocus. And also those you will see pointy side up and then the roots are down. You know, if for whatever reason by accident a bulb ends up upside down in the soil, doesn't matter. It just takes longer for the plant to grow up. All right, so now we're going to add just our last layer of dirt, which is another good 3 inches of dirt you want to top it off with. And we're using Coast of Maine. Yeah, just like a regular organic potting mix. One of the best there is. All right. And for now, this is all set. The potting soil that I've been using is quite moist already on its own, so I really don't need to give it any water. If we have like a really big dry spell, you might want to give it maybe water once, but you don't want to make the soil too wet because otherwise you have a tendency that the bulbs will rot and you end up with nothing. But from now, this is it. we can just put it aside and wait for spring to come around and have some bulbs in our yard. They will come back, especially like your crocus and your scilla, they come back very easily. Tulips have a tendency to like peter out over the years, so sometimes you can get 2 years out of it, sometimes 3 years, but then they kind of like peter out and that's it. Whereas the crocus and the scilla, they colonize very well, so those definitely can be a perennial for you. At the end of spring, once when everything is finished blooming, just cut out the bloom stalks, but leave your bulbs in the soil until all the leaves turn yellow. Once when the leaves are yellow, then it's time to dig up all your bulbs, clean them off, put them in a brown paper bag, save them in your basement, and start the process all over again in the fall. But it's important to let the leaves just die back till they're like yellow and then dig them up. Don't dig them up before, because that's how it gets its like food for the next season. Once when you dig up the bulbs, you can just pretty much clean them off and get rid of the roots. I just rinse them in water. Just make sure that before you put them away, they're dry. You can do the same thing in the ground. Depends on where you plant them. If you have like already shrubs and perennials around, you might not. But in my case at home, what I did, I planted 150 daffodils and then I put a layer of crocuses on top. So I start with the crocuses and then the daffodils will come through, and then so you'll have a double season of bulbs. All right, I just want to thank everybody for watching. This is Hans over at Weston Nurseries in Hopkinton, and I'll hope to see you in spring and we'll be able to show off our pot here with our spring bulbs.